Kevin Allen was supposed to be a star, a 6'5", 285-pound tackle out of Indiana University, built for dominance, drafted 9th overall by the Philadelphia Eagles in 1985. But within a year, his name would vanish from NFL rosters and reappear in courtroom headlines. Allen's rookie season was rocky. He started just 4 games, often outmatched by defensive veterans. His coach, Buddy Ryan, publicly humiliated him, saying Allen was only good for killing grass. Behind the scenes, his confidence collapsed, and off the field, things were far worse. In 1986, Allen tested positive for cocaine. The Eagles released him, and weeks later, headlines erupted. The former first-round pick was charged with aggravated sexual assault after a brutal attack on a woman in Margate, New Jersey. Prosecutors said Allen and his roommate, Scott Cartwright, had raped the victim on a beach after a night of drinking. By early 1987, both men pleaded guilty. Allen was sentenced to 15 years in state prison. His NFL career was over before it truly began. After serving just under 3 years, Allen was paroled and reinstated by the league in 1991. He tried to claw his way back through minor leagues, playing briefly for the Orlando Thunder in the World League and later in the Arena Football League, but the NFL never called again. C.J. Spillman's story is one that began with grit and determination and ended in disgrace. Born in Louisville, Kentucky, Spillman played college football at Marshall University, where he became a standout safety, recording over 130 tackles in a single season. His hard-hitting style earned him all-conference honors and a shot at the NFL. Undrafted in 2009, he clawed his way into the league with the San Diego Chargers before finding his stride with the San Francisco 49ers. Known for his intensity on special teams, Spillman became a reliable presence, later signing with the Dallas Cowboys in 2014. For a time, his name represented persistence and passion. But that same year, everything changed. In September 2014, while staying at the Gaylord Texan Resort in Grapevine, Texas, a woman reported that Spillman sexually assaulted her inside his hotel room. Police launched an investigation, and though Spillman admitted to having sex, he claimed it was consensual. Despite the serious nature of the allegation, he continued playing through the 2014 season. In 2015, a Texas grand jury indicted him on a charge of sexual assault. 2 years later, in June 2016, the case went to trial in Tarrant County. After less than 2 hours of deliberation, jurors found Spillman guilty. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Prosecutors argued that his fame and status did not excuse his behavior. The conviction was one of the few cases where an active or recently active NFL player faced prison for sexual assault. Reports also surfaced that Spillman violated bond conditions after testing positive for cocaine while awaiting trial, deepening his fall. Kellen Winslow II was born into football royalty, the son of Hall of Famer Kellen Winslow I. A star at the University of Miami, he won the John Mackey Award in 2003 and became a unanimous All-American. In 2004, the Cleveland Browns made him the 6th overall pick in the NFL Draft, a moment that marked the beginning of what many thought would be a legendary career. Winslow's talent was undeniable. In 2007, he caught 82 passes for over 1,100 yards, earning a Pro Bowl selection. 2 years later, he signed a record-setting 6-year, $36 million contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At the time, the richest deal ever for a tight end. His career totals would reach 469 receptions, 5,236 yards, and 25 touchdowns across stints with Cleveland, Tampa Bay, Seattle, New England, and the New York Jets. But his name would soon leave the sports pages and enter court documents. In 2018, Winslow was arrested in San Diego County after multiple women accused him of sexual assault. The allegations stretched from a 17-year-old girl he assaulted in 2003 to several women he attacked between 2017 and 2018, including a homeless woman and a hitchhiker. In 2019, a jury found him guilty of rape, indecent exposure, and lewd conduct. He later pleaded guilty to 2 additional charges involving separate victims. In March 2021, he was sentenced to 14 years in state prison and ordered to register as a lifetime sex offender. Once a Pro Bowl athlete with generational talent, Kellen Winslow II's fall from grace became one of the most shocking scandals in modern NFL history. David Meggett. He was one of the smallest players on the field, yet one of the biggest playmakers of his era. David, just 5'7", turned heads across the NFL as a dynamic return specialist and dual-threat running back. Drafted by the New York Giants in 1989, Meggett quickly became a fan favorite. He helped the Giants capture Super Bowl 25, earned 2 Pro Bowl selections, and later became the second all-time leader in punt return yards. His speed and agility made him one of the most electric special teams weapons of the 1990s. But behind the highlight reels, trouble was never far away. In 1998, while still an active player, David was accused of sexual assault in Toronto. The case ended in a hung jury. Nearly a decade later, in 2007, he was convicted of misdemeanor sexual battery in North Carolina and sentenced to probation. Then came the case that ended everything. In 2009, a 21-year-old College of Charleston student accused David of rape and burglary at her North Charleston apartment. Prosecutors said he forced his way into her home. The defense claimed the act was consensual. After a week-long trial, the jury sided with the victim. On November 10, 2010, David Meggett was found guilty of first-degree criminal sexual conduct and burglary. The judge sentenced him to 30 years in prison, with eligibility for parole only after serving at least 25 years. Today, the former Super Bowl champion sits in a South Carolina prison. Once celebrated for his speed and skill, Meggett's name now stands as one of the NFL's most tragic downfalls. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'll greatly appreciate it if you could show support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Darren Sharper. He was once one of the NFL's most respected safeties, a 5-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, and member of the league's all-decade team. Darren Sharper built his legacy with 63 interceptions across 14 seasons with the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and New Orleans Saints. But behind the highlight reels and trophies was a secret that would destroy everything he'd ever earned. Between 2010 and 2014, women across 4 states, California, Nevada, Arizona, and Louisiana, accused Sharper of drugging and sexually assaulting them. Investigations revealed a disturbing pattern. Prosecutors said he crushed prescription pills into drinks, rendering victims unconscious before assaulting them. Despite early reports, it took multiple police departments years to connect the cases, a delay that allowed him to keep offending. In 2014, Sharper was arrested in Los Angeles after 2 women came forward. As the investigation widened, more victims emerged nationwide. Prosecutors from several states joined forces in what became one of the NFL's most shocking criminal cases. In 2016, Sharper pleaded guilty or no contest to multiple counts of rape and drug distribution across several states. He received concurrent prison terms, 20 years in California, 18 years in federal court in Louisiana, and additional time in Arizona. His plea deal also imposed lifetime supervised release, GPS monitoring, and a ban on alcohol. Today, Darren Sharper remains behind bars, a once celebrated athlete now remembered for a string of violent crimes that shattered lives. Deshaun Watson was supposed to be the face of a new generation, a quarterback who could do it all. After leading Clemson to a national championship in 2016 and being drafted 12th overall by the Houston Texans, Watson quickly became one of the NFL's brightest stars. 3 Pro Bowl selections, record-breaking passing seasons, and highlight reel plays made him one of the most marketable names in football. But in 2021, that image began to collapse. In March of that year, a Houston massage therapist filed the first civil lawsuit accusing Watson of sexual misconduct during a private session. Within weeks, more lawsuits followed. By April, over 20 women had come forward, alleging similar behavior during massage appointments between 2020 and 2021. Watson denied all allegations, calling them false and orchestrated attempts to damage his reputation. Still, the accusations grew, eventually reaching 24 lawsuits in total. 2 separate Texas grand juries later declined to indict him on criminal charges, saying there wasn't enough evidence for prosecution. But in civil court, the story didn't end there. In 2022, Watson's attorney announced that 23 of the 24 lawsuits were settled privately, with details remaining confidential. The NFL then conducted its own investigation, determining Watson violated the league's personal conduct policy. He was suspended for 11 games, fined $5 million, and ordered to undergo behavioral evaluation and counseling. Despite the controversy, the Cleveland Browns traded multiple first-round picks to acquire him, signing Watson to a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, one of the largest in NFL history. When he finally returned to play in late 2022, his performance was subdued. His statistics dipped, and public reaction remained sharply divided. In 2024, another lawsuit surfaced, though the NFL later closed its investigation, citing insufficient evidence of a new violation. Today, Deshaun Watson continues to play under the weight of one of the most explosive scandals the NFL has ever seen. Ben Roethlisberger. He was one of the NFL's toughest quarterbacks, a two-time Super Bowl champion known for escaping tackles and engineering impossible comebacks. But behind Ben Roethlisberger's rise to football royalty came allegations that nearly ended his career. Drafted 11th overall in 2004 by the Pittsburgh Steelers, Roethlisberger quickly became a franchise cornerstone. His rookie season record, 13 wins, no losses, set a new NFL standard. By 2008, he had already led the Steelers to 2 Super Bowl victories, cementing himself as one of the game's elite. But in 2008, the spotlight shifted from the field to the courtroom. That year, a Lake Tahoe casino employee, Andrea McNulty, accused Roethlisberger of sexual assault, claiming he lured her to his hotel suite under false pretenses. She said the encounter was non-consensual and that casino staff tried to conceal what happened. Roethlisberger denied the allegations, insisting the relationship never occurred. No criminal charges were filed, but in 2009, McNulty filed a civil suit seeking damages. After years of legal silence, the case was settled out of court in 2012, with undisclosed terms and no admission of guilt. Barely 2 years later, controversy struck again. In March 2010, a 20-year-old college student in Milledgeville, Georgia, accused Roethlisberger of assaulting her inside a nightclub bathroom. Police reports described bruising and physical trauma, but DNA evidence was inconclusive. Prosecutors declined to press charges, citing insufficient proof, but the NFL took notice. Commissioner Roger Goodell suspended Roethlisberger 6 games, later reduced to 4, under the league's personal conduct policy. It was one of the first times a player faced suspension without a criminal conviction. Sponsors distanced themselves. His image, once that of a hometown hero, became a disturbing headline. But through the turbulence, Roethlisberger returned to the field, leading Pittsburgh to multiple playoff appearances before retiring in 2022. Antonio Brown, a 6th-round pick in 2010 who defied every odd stacked against him. From humble beginnings in Miami, he became one of the NFL's most unstoppable wide receivers. 7 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pro selections, and a Super Bowl ring with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But behind the touchdowns and highlight reels, his name became tied to one of the most controversial off-field sagas in modern NFL history. In September 2019, Brittany Taylor, Brown's former personal trainer and college acquaintance, filed a federal civil lawsuit accusing him of sexual assault on 3 occasions in 2017 and 2018. The lawsuit alleged that Brown exposed himself, kissed her without consent, and later raped her in his Miami home. Brown denied every allegation, claiming their encounters were consensual and that Taylor was attempting to exploit his fame for money. At the time, Brown had just joined the New England Patriots after a chaotic split with the Raiders. He played only 1 game before being cut, just 11 days later, as the lawsuit dominated national headlines. The NFL launched its own investigation, and teams kept their distance. Brown's public image shifted overnight, from record-breaking receiver to controversial figure at the center of a firestorm. For nearly 2 years, the case dragged on. Then, in April 2021, both sides reached a confidential civil settlement. No criminal charges were ever filed. Prosecutors cited the statute of limitations. Still, the damage to Brown's career was undeniable. He briefly returned to the NFL with Tampa Bay under Tom Brady, helping them win Super Bowl 55. But controversy followed him off the field, from league suspensions to social media meltdowns and later, new legal problems, including an arrest warrant issued in 2025 over an alleged shooting in Florida. Shannon Sharpe, a name that echoes through NFL history, 3-time Super Bowl champion, Hall of Famer, and one of the greatest tight ends ever to play the game. But in 2025, his legacy faced a dark and unexpected test. Born in Chicago and raised in rural Georgia, Shannon entered the NFL as a 7th-round pick in 1990. Against all odds, he became a dominant force with the Denver Broncos and Baltimore Ravens, earning 8 Pro Bowl selections, 4 All-Pro honors, and a Hall of Fame induction in 2011. His charisma later made him a major voice in sports media, hosting Club Shay Shay and serving as a high-profile analyst for ESPN. But in April 2025, Shannon was sued in Nevada by a woman who accused him of sexual assault, battery, and emotional distress, seeking $50 million in damages. The lawsuit described an alleged assault during what the plaintiff claimed was a volatile relationship. Shannon's legal team called the claims false, labeling the case a shakedown and asserting that their relationship was fully consensual. As headlines spread, leaked audio and text messages surfaced online, clips allegedly featuring Shannon making threats, though his attorneys challenged their authenticity. The case quickly became one of the most talked about scandals in sports media. By July 2025, court filings showed that both parties had reached a private settlement, and the case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning it could not be refiled. No trial was held. No guilt was legally established. Days later, reports confirmed that ESPN quietly ended its working relationship with Shannon. His representatives maintained his innocence, while the public remained divided. Peyton Manning, one of the most celebrated quarterbacks in NFL history, is often remembered for his brilliance on the field. 5 MVP awards, 2 Super Bowl victories, and a career that redefined the art of passing. But long before his professional glory, a controversy shadowed his rise. In 1996, while at the University of Tennessee, Manning was accused by athletic trainer Jamie Ann Nawright of placing his bare genitals on her face during a training room exam. Nawright reported the incident to a sexual assault crisis hotline and later to university officials. Manning denied the allegation, claiming it was a locker room prank, that he was mooning another athlete, not assaulting her. The university reached a confidential settlement with Nawright in 1997, and she eventually left her position. Years later, after Manning's father discussed the incident in a 2001 autobiography, Nawright filed a defamation lawsuit against the Mannings, the university, and others, alleging her reputation had been destroyed. That case was also settled privately, with terms undisclosed. Manning went on to NFL superstardom, first overall pick in 1998, leading the Colts to a championship in 2006 and the Broncos to another in 2016. Yet, the allegation resurfaced in 2016 during a Title IX lawsuit against the University of Tennessee, which cited the Manning case as part of an alleged pattern of mishandled sexual misconduct complaints. The university later paid $2.48 million to settle that broader case, denying wrongdoing. No criminal charges were ever filed against Manning, and he has consistently denied any sexual misconduct. Still, the 1996 accusation remains one of the most debated episodes in his otherwise legendary career. Jerry Jones. He's one of the most powerful men in American sports, a billionaire oil man who turned the Dallas Cowboys into a global brand. But behind the polished image of Jerry Jones lies a legal storm that's shaken the foundation of America's team. In September 2018, a woman identified as Jane Doe alleged that Jones sexually assaulted her inside the Tom Landry room at AT&T Stadium following a Cowboys game. According to court documents, she claimed Jones forcibly kissed her on the mouth and grabbed her without consent, an encounter she said left lasting trauma. Jones, through his attorneys, vehemently denied the allegations, calling them completely false. His legal team argued that the claims were fabricated and motivated by financial gain. A Dallas County judge initially dismissed the lawsuit in 2022, but in February 2023, a Texas appeals court reinstated it, ruling that the woman's allegations deserved a full hearing. Since then, the case has faced multiple delays, with trial dates moving from 2024 to 2025, and now set for July 2026. The woman is seeking damages for emotional distress and mental anguish, while Jones continues to maintain his innocence. His lawyers have pushed for dismissal, but judges have repeatedly ruled that the case will move forward. For Jerry Jones, who bought the Cowboys in 1989 for $140 million and built them into a multi-billion-dollar empire, this lawsuit represents a shadow over an otherwise iconic legacy: Dan Snyder. In the world of professional football, few ownership stories end in disgrace as dramatic as Dan Snyder's. When he bought the Washington Redskins in 1999, he promised a new era of dominance and pride. But what followed was 2 decades of controversy, investigations, and accusations that shook the NFL to its core. In 2009, Snyder was accused of sexually assaulting a female employee aboard a private plane. The team denied wrongdoing, but the Washington Post later revealed the organization quietly paid $1.6 million to settle the case. That would be the first of several disturbing claims. Years later, Tiffany Johnston, a former cheerleader and marketing executive, testified before Congress that Snyder placed his hand on her thigh during a work dinner and later attempted to push her into a limo. Her account opened a floodgate. Multiple former staffers came forward, describing a toxic workplace filled with harassment, fear, and retaliation, all under Snyder's leadership. The House Oversight Committee launched an investigation, concluding Snyder permitted and participated in a culture of intimidation and misconduct, while the NFL enabled years of cover-ups. Then came the league's own probe, led by former U.S. Attorney Mary Jo White, which substantiated Johnston's allegations and uncovered financial improprieties inside the franchise. In July 2023, the NFL announced Snyder's punishment, a $60 million fine, just as he finalized the sale of the team for over $6 billion. Matt Araiza. In 2021, he was rewriting college football history. The San Diego State punter became known as the Punt God, averaging over 51 yards per kick, a new NCAA record, and earning the Ray Guy Award for the nation's best punter. His booming left leg made him a viral sensation, and NFL scouts called him a once-in-a-generation talent. By April 2022, the Buffalo Bills drafted him in the 6th round. The rookie was poised to bring his record-breaking kicks to the pros, but just months later, everything changed. In August 2022, Araiza was accused, along with 2 former San Diego State teammates, of participating in an alleged gang rape of a 17-year-old girl at an off-campus party. The civil lawsuit sent shockwaves across the league. Within 48 hours, the Bills released him, even before any criminal charges were filed. Prosecutors later reviewed the evidence, and by December 2022, no criminal charges were brought. Investigators concluded that Araiza had left the party before the alleged assault took place. In December 2023, the accuser's attorneys dropped him from the civil lawsuit entirely. No settlement, no payment, no admission of guilt. But for Araiza, the damage was already done. Nearly 2 seasons passed before another NFL team called. In February 2024, the Kansas City Chiefs signed him, giving him a long-awaited second chance. His debut proved he still had one of the strongest legs in football, averaging nearly 49 yards per punt and dropping multiple inside the 20. Ray McDonald was once a defensive powerhouse for the San Francisco 49ers, a key figure in one of the league's most feared defensive lines. Drafted in the 3rd round of the 2007 NFL Draft out of Florida, McDonald was a national champion in college and went on to play 8 seasons in the NFL, recording over 200 tackles and nearly 20 sacks. He helped lead the 49ers to Super Bowl 47, where he notched a sack against the Baltimore Ravens. But in 2014, his career took a devastating turn. Police in San Jose opened an investigation after a woman accused McDonald of sexual assault. The 49ers released him shortly after, citing repeated off-field issues. It wasn't his first run-in with the law. Earlier that same year, he'd been arrested in a domestic violence case, though prosecutors declined to file charges. In December 2014, a grand jury indicted him for rape of an intoxicated woman. Prosecutors alleged that the woman had passed out at McDonald's home after a party. He maintained the encounter was consensual, and in 2017, prosecutors dropped the charge due to insufficient evidence. While the case was pending, McDonald was arrested again in 2015, this time on accusations of domestic violence, false imprisonment, and child endangerment. His then-fiancée claimed he assaulted her while she was holding their baby. The Chicago Bears, who had just signed him, cut ties immediately. That arrest marked the end of Ray McDonald's NFL career. He never played another game. In the years that followed, he filed civil suits against his accusers, but none revived his name or his reputation. Ahmad Brooks was once one of the most feared linebackers in the NFL, a powerful force known for his speed, aggression, and big-game moments. Drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in 2006 and later joining the San Francisco 49ers, Brooks built a solid career, recording over 380 tackles, 55 sacks, and earning a Pro Bowl selection in 2013. In 2012, he signed a 6-year, $44 million contract extension, cementing his status as one of the 49ers' defensive anchors. But in 2015, Brooks's name left the sports headlines and entered the courtrooms of Santa Clara County. A woman accused him of sexual battery, claiming that he groped her while she was unconscious during a party at teammate Ray McDonald's home. Prosecutors charged Brooks with a misdemeanor count of sexual battery, while McDonald faced a felony rape charge involving the same woman. Brooks immediately pleaded not guilty, maintaining his innocence. The 49ers, however, sent him home from team activities, distancing the franchise from the controversy. The misdemeanor charge carried a potential sentence of up to 6 months in jail, but the case did not result in a conviction. Later, the woman filed a civil lawsuit against both players, alleging sexual assault and emotional distress. Brooks continued to deny any wrongdoing. Legal records indicate that the case was eventually settled confidentially, with no admission of guilt. Lawrence Taylor was arguably the most feared linebacker in NFL history, a one-man storm that changed how football was played. But away from the field, his name would become tied to one of the most controversial criminal cases ever to touch the league. Drafted second overall by the New York Giants in 1981, Taylor redefined defense. He dominated offenses with brutal precision, racking up 132.5 career sacks, 10 Pro Bowl appearances, 8 All-Pro selections, and 2 Super Bowl rings. In 1986, he became only the second defensive player ever to win the NFL's Most Valuable Player award, a testament to his unmatched impact on the game. But decades after his rise, the headlines turned dark. In May 2010, Taylor was arrested in Montebello, New York, accused of paying for sex with a 16-year-old girl allegedly trafficked to his hotel room. Prosecutors charged him with third-degree rape and patronizing a minor prostitute. Taylor admitted to the encounter but claimed he believed she was 19. In 2011, he reached a plea deal, pleading guilty to 2 misdemeanors: sexual misconduct and patronizing a prostitute. He was sentenced to 6 years of probation and required to register as a sex offender. The civil lawsuit filed by the victim was later dismissed, but the damage to his reputation was permanent. Lawrence Taylor's story remains a stark contradiction, a player hailed as one of football's greatest defenders, yet forever shadowed by his off-field crimes. Greatness on the field could not shield him from the consequences beyond it. Jameis Winston, once the golden boy of college football, a Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, and the NFL's #1 overall draft pick. But long before his first professional snap, controversy had already found him. In December 2012, while at Florida State University, a fellow student reported being sexually assaulted in an off-campus apartment. Months passed before the case gained attention. By late 2013, Winston was publicly identified as the suspect. The investigation revealed conflicting statements, DNA evidence linking Winston to the accuser, and questions about how police handled the case. Prosecutors ultimately declined to press criminal charges, citing insufficient evidence for conviction. Still, the allegations never faded. Florida State later held a student conduct hearing, and Winston was cleared. But the accuser, Erica Kinsman, filed civil suits against both Winston and the university, claiming mishandling and denial of justice. In 2016, Winston settled with Kinsman out of court, and Florida State paid her $950,000 to resolve a Title IX lawsuit, without admitting wrongdoing. Years later, another accusation emerged. An Uber driver alleged Winston groped her during a 2016 ride in Arizona. The NFL investigated and suspended him 3 games in 2018 for violating the league's personal conduct policy. Winston accepted the punishment but maintained his innocence. On the field, Winston's talent has never been in doubt. He's thrown for more than 24,000 yards, over 150 touchdowns, and once led the league in passing yards. Yet his career has been defined by both brilliance and controversy, the promise of greatness forever shadowed by the weight of serious allegations. Marcell Dareus was once one of the most dominant defensive tackles in the NFL, a 2-time Pro Bowler, a first-team All-Pro, and the 3rd overall pick in the 2011 draft. He anchored the Buffalo Bills' defense, racking up over 250 tackles and nearly 40 sacks in 9 seasons, earning more than $90 million throughout his career. But beyond the bright lights and accolades, Marcell's name became linked to controversy that threatened to overshadow everything he built. In 2017, a woman in Tampa, Florida, filed a civil lawsuit accusing Marcell of sexual assault and of transmitting a sexually transmitted disease without disclosure. According to the complaint, she alleged she had been drinking with him, blacked out, and later awoke partially unclothed in his bed. A year later, in 2018, another woman filed a separate civil suit in Duval County, claiming Marcell had sex with her while she was unconscious and also transmitted an STD. No criminal charges were ever filed in either case. In April 2019, a Hillsborough County judge dismissed the first lawsuit with prejudice, meaning it could not be refiled. The second lawsuit, filed in Jacksonville, was also dismissed after the court determined it lacked sufficient grounds to proceed. Marcell has publicly denied the allegations. While the courts closed the cases, the accusations left a lasting mark on his reputation. Once celebrated as a defensive powerhouse, his career quietly faded after 2019. Michael Irvin, one of the most electrifying wide receivers to ever wear the star on his helmet. A cornerstone of the Dallas Cowboys' 1990s dynasty, three-time Super Bowl champion, five-time Pro Bowler, and Hall of Famer. His 1995 season alone was a masterclass, 111 receptions, over 1,600 yards, and 10 touchdowns. But beyond the highlight reels and championship rings came headlines that told a different story. In 2007, a woman in Broward County, Florida, filed a civil lawsuit accusing Irvin of sexually assaulting her at a hotel over the July 4th weekend. Irvin denied the allegations, and prosecutors declined to file criminal charges, citing insufficient evidence. Still, the civil case moved forward, and after years of back and forth, it ended quietly, with a confidential settlement. No conviction, no closure, just controversy that followed him into his media career. Then, in 2023, Irvin faced another public storm. A hotel employee in Phoenix accused him of misconduct during Super Bowl week. Irvin was swiftly removed from NFL Network coverage, but this time, he fought back. He filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against Marriott, claiming the allegations were false and had destroyed his reputation. Months later, the case was settled, and Irvin returned to the network. Brandon McManus. In May 2024, headlines rocked the NFL when Jacksonville Jaguars kicker Brandon McManus was accused of sexual assault by two female flight attendants who worked on the team's charter flight to London. The lawsuit alleged that McManus made unwanted sexual advances during the October 2023 trip, including inappropriate physical contact and lewd behavior. The women also accused the Jaguars organization of negligence, claiming the team failed to provide adequate supervision or enforce workplace policies during the flight. At the time, McManus denied all allegations, calling them false and defamatory. The Jaguars and the NFL launched internal reviews while the legal battle began unfolding in a Florida court. In August 2024, a Florida Circuit Court judge dismissed the case, ruling that the plaintiffs couldn't remain anonymous under state law. The women later refiled under their real names, but the case quietly ended in October 2024 after both sides confirmed that it had been resolved under confidential terms. Meanwhile, the NFL completed its own investigation and announced it had found insufficient evidence to discipline McManus under the league's personal conduct policy. Through the storm, McManus kept playing. Known for his clutch kicks, he had already helped the Denver Broncos win Super Bowl 50, delivering consistent performances over nearly a decade. After his release from Denver, he joined the Jaguars in 2023 and later signed with the Green Bay Packers in 2024, where he made a strong comeback, including a game-winning field goal in his debut. Today, Brandon McManus remains active in the NFL, his career continuing despite the controversy that once threatened to define him. Matt Patricia, a name that once echoed through New England's defensive dynasty, later found himself tangled in controversy few expected. Born in 1974, Patricia played offensive line at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, earning an engineering degree before turning to coaching. After short stints at Amherst and Syracuse, he joined the New England Patriots in 2004. By 2012, he was the team's defensive coordinator, a central architect behind 3 Super Bowl championships and one of the NFL's most efficient defenses of the decade. But in 2018, as the Detroit Lions announced Patricia as their new head coach, an old story from his past resurfaced, one that shocked the league. A 1996 grand jury in Texas had once indicted him for aggravated sexual assault, stemming from an alleged incident involving a woman during a spring break trip. Patricia was arrested at the time, but never tried. The case was dismissed after the alleged victim declined to testify, and he has consistently maintained his innocence, calling the accusation false and untrue. The Lions stood by him, saying they'd reviewed the matter before hiring him. Still, the revelation sparked national debate, not only about Patricia's past, but about how far back organizations should look when vetting powerful figures in sports. Despite the controversy, Patricia continued his career, returning to New England after his Detroit tenure, then taking roles with the Eagles, and in 2025, becoming defensive coordinator at Ohio State. If you enjoyed this video, I'll be posting many more interesting videos on the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Thank you very much.